everyone, my name's Annette and welcome to Cottoverdi. Today I thought it might be fun to show you what I grew from seed to create some gorgeous table arrangements that I made at the weekend. We had some friends round for dinner in the garden and I created a couple of arrangements and I really liked them, and everybody commented on them, which was really nice. And I know that, you know, we grow lots of things from seeds, and you're probably looking at seed catalogues at the moment to try and decide what you want to choose to grow next year. And I thought it might be fun to show you what I grew from seed for those arrangements, and you know how long it took, and show you what the plants look like in these raised beds here behind me. These are new to me this year and I've really enjoyed having beds that we can cut from. So anyway, come with me and I'll go through these arrangements with you. This bunch of dahlias here are the dahlias that I chose for this arrangement. They are called Rosemary Dawn, and I've got rather a lot of them because I've had them for a while. So these are extras that I put here in the raised beds, and I really love them. They are such a gorgeous combination of peach and coral and a very soft yellow and sort of splashes of raspberry. They're very pretty. They are pom-pom dahlias, which means that they're round and small in the flowers are small in size, and they have involute petals through most of the ball, the pom-pom. So involute means that the petals sort of curve upwards. If they touch, they're fully involute. If they're partially involute, they don't quite touch. Let me show you on an actual dahlia what that means. So all of these dahlias here are Rosemary Dawn. So you can sort of see how big Rosemary Dawn is compared to my hand. They are about 2 inches across. That's about 5 centimetres, and they will grow to about 90 centimetres tall, so 3 foot. And they do sort of vary in colour. You know, we've got some more sort of yellowy ones down here, but this is quite a good example of Rosemary Dawn. And then the involute petals are, the petal like curves all the way round, so it sort of lifts up along its length. So they have, when they're quite young, they'll have this sort of green centre to them, and then they've got the raspberry surrounding that, and then the tip of each petal is sort of this corally raspberry colour. It's really pretty. I love the gradation, is that the right word, in sort of the colours as they move along. There's another one over here that's also looking quite cool, and you can see how the top of it is darker than the bottom. They all vary slightly, so they're not necessarily a very uniform dahlia. I don't know if they'd win any prizes for that. So this one down here has got a bit more sort of orange in it. It's only just opening, but it's a little bit smaller. The next thing I chose to go with Rosemary Dawn was this gorgeous cosmos here. This one is called Double Click Rose Bonbon, and it is just this gorgeous, fluffy, very pink flower. It's just so pretty. It's got so many petals. It's like ruffly and cute, and they stand up quite straight. They're looking face up. Some cosmos I find can have quite heavy heads, but these all face upwards, and then they've just got the normal gorgeous yellow centre. And I really like this cosmos because it's got more than one flower on each stem. So for instance, if this is a stem here, it's got quite a few flowers on it, and you know, more to come. So it makes like quite a nice sort of bunch, and I did use stems like this in the arrangement where I was just able to put in a couple of flowers in one go. So the flowers on this cosmos are pretty much the same size as the pom-poms of Rosemary Dawn. So they're about 2 inches across when they're fully open, and I found that was like a really nice compliment. And even though you wouldn't necessarily think that this pink would go with the orangey yellow, you can see one in the background there, actually they complemented each other really nicely. I mean, the yellow centre probably helps, but I think that that was a perfect combination. They're actually slightly taller than the Rosemary Dawn. So I would say they are probably about 1 metre tall, and Rosemary Dawn is about 90 centimetres. I mean, you know, it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. It doesn't really matter too much, but just in case you're wondering how tall they are. So with the dahlias and the cosmos, it's really important to deadhead them. If you want them to keep flowering and producing throughout the season, definitely deadhead them. I religiously go around deadheading. I'm out here every day just doing a tiny bit, not necessarily just here, but in the garden too, just taking off the faded blooms. And you know, even if they're just about to fade, I tend to take them off if I know I'm not going to need them for anything, because that just tells a plant to produce more flowers. If you leave the dead blooms on, then they're going to turn to seed, and then the plant will think it's done its job and it will give up producing flowers because it's created seed already. So the quicker you can deadhead, the better, and I really do take that quite seriously. For the next flower that I chose for this arrangement, you're going to see my guilty secret, which is that I haven't ripped out the sweet peas yet, even though they've all died. Definitely over. I may try and save some of the seeds because there'll be loads of seeds on there, but we just haven't got around to ripping it out yet. We've had too much else to do. But what I want to show you now is one of my favourite ever Snapdragons, and that is a Snapdragon called Potomac Royal. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's this most perfect purple colour, like a royal purple colour, not a deep purple colour, but it's so rich and intense. I really, really love it. And I think I've run out of seed. I need to try and get hold of some more seed. But this is one of my favourites. I grow it specifically for the wedding celebration we had in our garden, but I've got a couple left over. They have kind of flopped a bit, but I quite like it when they've got like a bend. I think they are really useful in arrangements if the stems aren't completely straight. They're especially useful for smaller arrangements. So these are the Potomac Royal. There are a couple of bees, really enjoying them at the moment. You can see that I've tried to prop them up with twine, but some of them have just grown outside of the twine, and I'm just, you know, trying to enjoy them and use them wherever I can because I love them so much. Now, the best time to pick a Snapdragon is when it's still, it's only flowered on the bottom third half of the stem. When it's flowered through most of the stem, it's not going to last as long in your vase. So with all my Snapdragons, I sowed them on the 6th of February, and these germinated on the 12th of February, and they just produce masses of these lovely, rich, royal purple flowers. They will grow to about 1 metre tall, but that will probably only happen if you sow them in the autumn. So sort of September time, October time, then they'll produce really long stems. But if you sow them like I did in February, they're just not going to produce such long stems. But my stems are about 60 centimetres long for the first stem, and then the side shoots are always going to be a bit shorter anyway. The pale pink Snapdragon we can see in the background is the Madam Butterfly Pink, which is also incredibly pretty. It's such a soft, gentle colour, but I really, really love Potomac Royal. The other thing that I chose for the arrangement was just the very tips of this plant here, which is an Amaranthus called Velvet Curtains, and it's just got these deep purple spikes. They're so pretty, and matching leaves and stems. This Amaranthus has incredibly dark crimson plumes, and it's sort of going a little bit to seed at the moment, so you can see little yellow dots on it. It's going to grow to about 1 metre tall, and it's just this perfect late summer filler. Now, I chose side shoots for this arrangement because they were quite small, because actually these plumes, like the main plumes, are really, really huge, and they wouldn't have fit in the vase. Let me show you. So your main plume is just enormous, whereas I chose sort of the little side shoots. They're much smaller and more manageable. You know, something like this here is easier to put in an arrangement. The best thing to do with Amaranthus is to pinch it out, because otherwise they do get enormous. So unless you want, you know, really huge spikes like this, which can be useful, but if you don't want those, then keep pinching, because then you'll have much more useful side spikes. Now, I sowed these on something like the 27th of March. Yep, the 27th of March, and they germinated by the 30th of March. So they're really fast to germinate, and then I just planted them out with everything else in May. The other thing that I put in the vase that I think went really, really well, especially with the Rosemary Dawn Dahlia, is something called Oric. And this is an Oric called Red Plume. It's also known as Atriplex. That's its Latin botanical name, I guess. But I love this plant. Now, these self-seeded for me. Every single one of this is self-seeded. I didn't sow them. I think once you've got Oric in your garden, you'll probably have it forever, but they're really easy to just pull out the seedlings. They're easy to spot because they're red, and if you don't want them, you don't have to have them, but I think they're fantastic. First of all, they grow incredibly tall. They're like 6 foot tall, nearly 2 meters tall, but you can pinch them out and just make them shorter, like a really low down plant, maybe 2 foot, 3 foot. So because they just produce loads of side shoots. The reason I grow them, I mean, it's edible. First of all, I should mention that it's like spinach, so you can eat the leaves. But the reason I grow them and I like them, first of all, is because they're just this great structure and texture in the border. But I grow them specifically not just for the foliage. Well, in fact, not really for the foliage at all, because I grow them for the seed heads. The flowers are kind of, you won't really notice them, they're insignificant, they're not astonishingly pretty or anything, but they turn to seed quite quickly, and then they produce these gorgeous seed heads that are again full of colour and texture, and they've got like a nice sort of droop on them, and I just think they're absolutely wonderful. They're wonderful in big arrangements, but they're also really wonderful in small arrangements, and I think they're quite unusual. Like, you won't necessarily find these in your local florist, so I love to have them in the garden because then you can use them and make your arrangements just look that bit much more special. I also think they look really nice in the border. So I let some self-seed here. There next to a Eustacia Vi rose. This is a dahlia called Rumble Bumble. There's some white phlox in the background. This is a celosia on this side called a Summer Sherbet Mix. I think that's a floret variety. But I just think they look really cute. They look quite good against the Physocarpus or ninebark in the background there. And these are some that I pinched, so they're not nearly as tall. These are about 2.5, 3 foot tall, and these are just all the side shoots, and I think they look really cute. They're with a dahlia called Strawberry Cream. This is a phlox called Forever Lavender. I think I'll put the name up on the screen. And then you've probably spotted the last thing that I put in the arrangements is some eucalyptus, and I use that for foliage. And we have got, I think, 3 or 4 bushes here that I've got a whole series of videos on if you're interested in knowing how to look after eucalyptus. We kind of create a hedge here, which is the border to a patio, but it's also border to the gravel garden that I'm standing in right now. And the thing I love about the eucalyptus is I tend to pick the younger shoots because they have got the rounder leaves, which is what I really like in the arrangements. But eucalyptus also produces, elongated, thinner leaves. But the foliage I like is the really round ones. So that's how I created this arrangement. Now, if you're wondering how I arranged them in these little urns or vases, I literally just started with the eucalyptus as a base layer, and then I put the dahlias in. It's easier to put the dahlias in once your base layer's in, because you can kind of put them in amongst the stems of the eucalyptus. Then I added the cosmos so that I made sure that they were spread out, and then I sort of tucked in the Oric in the spaces where I felt like I needed a little bit more pink, and then I added just the spike of Amaranthus, and then I kind of just messed with it a little bit and fiddled with it until I felt like all the colours were evenly distributed and everybody from all angles of the table would get a good view. So these were fully round arrangements, I suppose. Every angle needed to look good. So that's it for today. I really hope you've enjoyed this insight into the arrangement that I made. If you have enjoyed this video, could you please let me know, and then I can possibly make more, because I make arrangements every week to go on our kitchen counter. I make really big arrangements, and I love doing that. And I love just going around the garden and choosing different things to make each one shine. I'm heading much more towards the sort of autumnal colours as we're coming to the end of August. Well, it's kind of the middle of August, but I'm sort of thinking about September and sort of the oranges and yellows, but I've got loads of pink in the garden, as you can see behind me. So do let me know if there's anything special you would like to see. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.